Welcome to Speaking Highly with Jon Huck. I am your host, Jon Huck. With me as always is Indy. If you like what we're doing, you enjoy the show, you want to share it with your friends, get online, go to all the podcast platforms, like, rate, review. Check it out on YouTube, like it, leave a comment. Go to speakinghighly.com for all your Speaking Highly needs.
Man, you are getting so slick with the intros now. I love it.
Soon I'm just going to get a face tattoo that has all that information on it, and I won't have to do that again. It'll just be there the whole time.
It's just a subscribe bar across your forehead. Yeah.
Well, wouldn't that be, you could do a G, what are those codes that people could put their phone up to?
The code, and then the like button, and then the dislike. Here.
There's no dislike button.
And then your mouse, the comment box. Yeah, it's great. You're a whole YouTube page.
Honestly, there's the dislike button is unnecessary. People are like, I need a dislike button. Just keep moving.
Yeah.
That's what denotes you not caring and not liking it. You just kept going. You kept going into your feed, into something else. You don't need to go, I don't like it. Like when I see a video of like Eckhart Tolle or somebody, a spiritual teacher, and he's got a video. It's like 2 million likes and then like 40 dislikes. It's like, who are these 40 people that are so miserable? They're like, oh, you like this? Fuck that. I hate it. Like, get out of here, dude. That's bizarre. Bizarre behavior. But today we are celebrating the show Puppy Dog Pals. And even more than that, we're celebrating the life and times of Harland Williams, if you will. He created Puppy Dog Pals. It's his brainchild. He does the voice of Bob, the owner of the two puppies. And he's an interesting guy. He's not, I know Harland, like, again, I like to point this out. I'm not his best friend. We don't hang out. We don't arm wrestle, whatever. But we work together. I was fortunate enough to meet him at an audition where we were just in the waiting room together. We started chatting. And I almost didn't say anything because I'd been on shows before where he'd come in and done his time at the very end. He was like a special guest. And these were shows where most of the comics, had to bring some people to get in or whatever. And then he pops up and it's like a huge surprise for everybody. They sat through their friend's shitty comedy and now Harland Williams gets to go on. And it was like watching people watch him was exciting. And afterwards, we had a brief conversation, but that was like 2003 or something like that. Fast forward to 2018, 2017, I'm in that auditioning room and I see him and I'm like, we start chatting, just casual, and I almost didn't say anything like, hey man, because I was looking for feature work. I was looking to get out to more clubs. I was looking to get on the road more. I was looking to just do more stand-up wherever I could. And I just, on an offshoot, I was like, I'm good. Hey man, if you ever need a feature, I was on my way out. I was like, this way, I can just keep going and he doesn't have to go, and he goes, hey, okay, hang on. And then he was real cool about it. He was like, look, here's my email. He goes, I'm sure you're funny. Just send me like 5 minutes so that
we get the confirmation. Yeah.
You need something. You can't just go, yeah, I'll take you on the road. And I show up and all I have is like dick jokes about, just some scummy act. And then he's like, that's not what I want in front of me, So he just wanted to see that I could engage a crowd.
License and registration, sir. Yeah. Your comedy license and registration.
I honestly thought that he was blowing smoke up my ass. I'm like, oh, he's not gonna. So I emailed and I gave him the thing and I was like, oh, well, good riddance, buddy. And within a week, he was like, hey man, yeah, I got these dates. Do you want to do them?
That's
and it was
so
like,
great.
Boom. So,
wow.
It's so funny because with him,
he totally didn't
Dan,
need to do that. Like,
no, he didn't.
So cool.
Dude, how does it benefit him to bring me on the road? I mean, it doesn't, except for we get along. I'm not annoying in the green room. I'm not a sloppy drunk. You know what I mean? Right. There's like we can chill, but we don't like go out after shows. Like he would literally go back to his hotel room to work on Puppy Dog Pals. He's like, we got another episode coming out. Like that dude works all the time. I mean, that's probably why he comes to us from Greenland today because he was
Greenland's
working.
best.
I like it. He likes islands.
Yeah.
Harland is hilarious and very unique.
He used the
Puppy Dog Pals
entire bandwidth of Greenland to get on the Zoom call today.
He's the only one on the internet right now there. But check out Puppy Dog. If you have kids, check out Puppy Dog Pals for sure. And if you don't, it's okay. Check it out anyway.
Listen for Harland's voice.
Listen for Harland's voice, and also, it is a cartoon that's not. it's not Rugrats where, you know, or SpongeBob, but it's like close to that where parents can watch it with their kids and it's not a mind-numbingly stupid show that's just like colors and shapes and what it's a story, it's a plot.
I mean,
there's characters,
can you
there's
with
comedy.
Harland at the helm? You can't.
You can't not like it really, but yeah, check it out and then enjoy this conversation with Harland Williams. The guy is a class act and super enjoyable to be around. So hope you guys enjoy it as much as we enjoyed talking to him. Harland Williams, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. What a treat. Thank you, John.
Where are you now? Are you in Florida or are you in LA?
I am in a undisclosed location in Greenland. I like it's one of the biggest islands in the world, and I love island vacations. So Greenland felt right.
Yeah, are the beaches nice?
They're a little chilly.
You wear a wetsuit when you go swimming, right?
Well, what I wear is like a 3-piece suit, but it does get wet. Yeah, I like to look presentable on the beach, so I wear a pinstripe 3-piece suit, and it does get wet. So technically,
it's a wetsuit, but that's good. You never know who you're going to see on a Greenland beach, you know.
Well, and with the vest and the tie and the cummerbotch or whatever it's called,
cummerbund, yeah.
Keeps the jellyfish off.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good. Learning about Greenland marine life today. I had no idea. That's fascinating. Well, enjoy Greenland, man. That's wild.
Thanks.
Let's talk. Let's dive into are you fanning yourself?
Well, it's hot. It's hot here on the beach.
Oh, the water's chilly, but the sun is out, so the sand is hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. When you Puppy Dog Pals been on for a few seasons now, got renewed for a 4th season?
Just got renewed for a 5th season, John.
5th season. Yeah. Oh man, that's great, dude. Congratulations.
Thanks.
But quick question, because I just did this. I wrote a kid show with somebody else recently, and I don't have children of my own. You know, I have a niece, I have some nephews, my cousins have kids. But how did you come up with the idea of a children's show that, I mean, I guess what I like about it is that parents can watch it with their kids and it's not nonsensical. It has a story and a plot and there's jokes in there and it's funny, and whereas there's some children's programming that's like Umizoomi, which I'm not trying to shit on, but it's nonsense. It's just bee-bop, bee-bop. It's just sounds and colors, and it's for like really young kids, but like my brother was ready to jump out a window when he was having to watch that every day. Yeah. So like I'm just wondering if when you created Puppy Dog Pals, if that was part of what you wanted to do at all, is like make it so parents could watch it with kids and not just leave them alone with it.
Yeah, I tried to make it like a little more sophisticated than the average kid's cartoon. Like I tried to make it so that every episode had a little bit of a logic mystery to it. You know, the show's full of misleads where the puppies overhear something that their human says or that one of the other characters say, and they misinterpret it, but then go on this wild journey, and through their kind of fumbling, they find a solution. And so I wanted to make it entertaining, a lot of adventure, a lot of journeys, but at the same time make something that was a little bit clever so that A, adults could sit through it, and B, that even though kids are young, they had something a little more intelligent to filter through their little eggshell brains, as Jim Morrison would say, you know. They're fragile eggshell minds.
Yeah. That's awesome. What was the... Like, it's not, when you say misunderstanding, I just immediately go to Three's Company, like overhearing a doctor saying, "Oh, it doesn't look good," and he's looking at like a plumbing situation, but then Jack Tripper hears him and he thinks he's looking at his medical chart and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm dying." You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Right. But I like that. The misdirects, the misleads are key, because part of it is once you watch a few episodes, you understand that. But it's like a Law and Order. When you watch Law and Order, like the first guy you see isn't the person who killed somebody. Like they're not going to go, we got him, show's over. Like that there's going to be a misdirect and we think it's this guy or we think it's her and we're going over here. And so I do like that. That's a good, and also like you said, just a tad more intelligence, man. Just make it so the kids have to think a little bit. And that's great, dude. Do you have any kind of background in like child education or anything like that? Just out of curiosity?
Well, I don't have a background in child education outside of helping to raise two little sisters, but I studied animation in college, classical animation. And then when I got out of college, I wrote and illustrated quite a few children's books. So I had a little bit of experience creating content for kids, and I also had the knowledge of how animation works on all levels. When you study it, you do everything from storyboard to filming to you do every step. So yeah, it was a very thorough course. So I that was kind of my background in that stuff.
So that's awesome. I didn't realize that you studied classic animation. So that's taking it back to like Steamboat Willie and like you're going all the way back to the first kind of drawings and then taking it to where you were at the time. And then, I mean, that was a whole class? That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it was, I mean, that was part of it. We studied that type of animation history and then classical animation is actually a term that refers to doing things in the very classical sense, the way Disney did it, like squash and stretch and drawing on paper and flipping and watching everything move and then transferring it to cell and then inking and painting the cell and then shooting each darn cell one at a time. So everything just moved like this. So my course took place just, probably I finished probably about 4 years before, computer animation just started to happen. So
and even computer animation
now, yeah.
Yeah, and computer animation, even in its infancy, was not what it is today. I mean, they kind of ran side by side for a little bit, right? Like the old school way was still going, and then computers were starting up, but I'm imagining there's always going to be that at the time. There's the school of thought, like I always equate it to like Burt Reynolds in Boogie Nights when he's like, "We're not making on VHS. It's film. And then eventually it's like, dude, nobody's watching on film. You need to make it on VHS, and the cost to cut down the cost and everything. But I imagine there's somebody like computers can't animate. That's ridiculous. And then like eventually, I mean, it's all done by computers at this point, is it not? You there?
Yeah, pretty much. Oh. Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, it froze a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, that's because I'm in Greenland. It's a little chilly here, but
and the weather, right? It's reception.
But to put the computer animation in context, my roommate in college at the time was a guy named Steve Williams, and on the weekends, he was studying computer animation during its infancy. And he would come back to our condo every Sunday night with a VHS tape and go, "Oh my God, look what I did." And me and my roommates would sit around the TV and he'd put in this VHS and these colored circles would come up. And we were like, "Yeah, so?" And he goes, "This was all done on a computer." And we're like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, this is the beginning of it." And we're like, "Okay." And then cut to, I guess about 12 years later, Steve was the guy who created the T-Rex for Jurassic Park and changed the whole film industry. So
wow. So that was created cell by cell, like pixel by pixel, right? Like it created basically built a dinosaur on a computer. I mean, that's crazy what they can do now. When you say you wrote children's books, that's a hard business. You have multiple children's books. That's a hard kind of nut to crack. You know what I mean? To get in there as you're not like or were you already Harland Williams when you wrote these books?
No, I hadn't even. I don't think I'd even started comedy yet.
No kidding. That's crazy.
Yeah, I first got out of college, and you know, I was itching. I didn't want to go into the animation industry because back then it was kind of like an assembly line. You know, somebody did the pencil drawings, somebody inked them, somebody did the key drawings, someone did the in-between drawings. So it was just passed down the line, and I thought I might as well work at a car plant, you know. And
yeah.
I wanted to draw, so I drew up these children's books. And what happened is I sent them out to every publisher in Canada. I lived in Toronto at the time, and I found a list of every single publisher, and I sent it out, and I waited about 3 months, and I got a rejection letter from everybody, every publisher in Canada. So I was so determined. I opened the phone book and I found I looked at my list and I found the publisher that was closest to me geographically. And I said, Mom, can I borrow your car? And she said, yeah, and this place was about an hour and a half away.
Oh my God.
And I drove all the way there with all my drawings and my story. And I went into the lobby, and the receptionist was like, can I help you? And I said, look, I have drawings and I have a manuscript and I want to show them to someone. And she goes, sir, that's not the way it works. You can't just burst in here. And I said, well, they're really good, and I want someone to see them. She goes, well, you have to make an appointment, and this isn't how it works. And as I was kind of going at it with her, this door opened, and this little, I describe him as almost like Mr. Pickwick from a Charles Dickens character. This little short, kind of middle-aged man walked out, and he was like, what's going on out here? And I said, I have these drawings and I want to show them to someone. And I held them up and showed them. He goes, okay, wait here. And he took them and he went back in the door, and I just went, well, good. And then the receptionist went, yeah, that is good. That's the owner of the company. And I went, okay. And then I just waited in the lobby for about an hour. And I saw him bring in all his other employees. And then at the end of the hour, he walked out in the lobby and he says, we want to do your book, but 4 of them. And I was like, let's go. So
what?
That's how it started. Yeah.
That's insane, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, that kind of behavior gets you arrested now and dragged from a lobby by security guards. Probably. You know, but that's a great story, man. That's like you hear about like Robin Williams getting Mork and Mindy, and everyone else was really good, but he went in and sat on his head while he did it. Like he read the whole thing upside down, and they were like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Mork, this is how he reads," and they're like, "No, he doesn't." And he's like, "Yeah, he does," and they're like, "Okay," and then he gets it, and that's what he was doing on the show. I mean, that's wild that you just walked in and you're like, "I got a book, you guys got to make it," and they were like, and you're right, we do. Let's do it. Great. So you got 4 books done. What's even
more fascinating is as I learned by working this little guy, his name was Cyril Hayes. He was this little balding Irish guy, and he was one of the most tyrannical people I've ever worked for. Like, he struck fear in the hearts of people walked on eggshells. I even was nervous around him, but the fact that he came out and did that with me, to this day I can barely believe it. He was a good guy, but he was a tough guy. So
is he not around anymore?
He passed away several years ago, but the fact that he just did that on the spot with me, to this day, but it just goes to show, I always say to anybody, if you have a dream or if you have an idea and you're passionate about it, I got rejected by every publisher in Canada, like dozens and dozens, and
there's a lot.
I wouldn't go down, you know. And I'm not saying that always works, but in this case, it worked, you know.
And I bet that had that not worked for you, you wouldn't have stopped there. You would have been like, all right, this guy doesn't want it. Where's the next place? You know what I mean? I feel like that story would have continued.
Well, I've done things like that my whole career. I remember, you know, when I started stand-up comedy in Toronto, and this was even scarier. I just had this go-get-'em attitude. And in the 80s, during the stand-up comedy era, you know, Canada didn't have an industry really. There weren't even really talent agencies up there. So for Canadian comedians like, you know, me and Norm Macdonald and people like that, we really had nowhere to go except get to the States and find someone. And one night at the only comedy club in Toronto at the time, Lorne Michaels showed up to watch somebody. And I swear to God, I did this. He was hanging around outside, and I ran inside. I got a pen, and I got a piece of paper, and I wrote, "Dear Lorne, please call me, and we will make comedy history together." And I wrote it down, and I stood close enough to him, and I swear to God, I tucked it in his blazer pocket while he was talking to somebody. My hand was shaking. Now, I never got the call, but these are the kind of things I did early on. I was just determined to make it. And
you never got the call, but Lorne Michaels beefed up his security detail pretty quick after that. Like, man, so that's I don't think I really knew that about you, that you were, you know, that determined in a sense that you're like, I don't care, I'm not going to stop, it's going to happen, here you go, call me. I mean, maybe Lorne Michaels, he's probably trying to reach you now, but Greenland only has one phone, and it's hard to get to.
maybe.
Yeah, maybe. That's wild though. So no call from Lorne Michaels. Any other times that you sort of did something like that was?
Oh gosh, yeah. I went to. First time I went to New York, I was working at an office job in Toronto for the police, believe it or not.
Oh man!
And there was a cute girl on the ninth floor, and one day we played hooky and went to Atlantic City. We got on a flight and we dressed up and we went to Atlantic City and we gambled, and there was a lounge act, and it was me and her were the only two watching this guy. And at the end, he came and talked to us and said, "Oh, I'm a talent agent," and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, about 4 months later, he phoned me, and he knew I was a comedian, and he said, "Can you get to New York? They're casting for a Mike Tyson Pepsi commercial." And I didn't know anything about agents or casting. I said, "Sure, I'll be there." So I went down with nothing, like $80 in my pocket, and I ended up going in. And I got the role, of all things. I auditioned, and then they asked for my social security number, and I said, "Well, I'm Canadian. Do you want that one?" And they said no. So then this guy's assistant was going to marry me so I could get a green card, and I ended up in the streets of New York sleeping in bushes for 4 nights, and in movie theaters. It was just. I've done a lot of nutty things,
dude. That's fucking crazy too, man. I mean, just first of all, like making the trip down to New York and then actually getting cast in the commercial is like, oh, okay, that worked.
Yeah.
You must have seen, like, look, I did it with a book, I can do it with comedy. Like, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it. That's just your attitude. Yeah. Have you, even as a kid, you were like that?
As a kid, no, because I didn't know what the business world was. But as a kid, I had an inner voice that told me I was going to be in the entertainment, that I was going to be entertaining people. I didn't know how, if I was going to be a singer, an actor, or whatever. But I just knew somehow inside that I was going to be in the entertainment world. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Wild. And what were the kids' books about? Were they all 4 related, or were they all individual books, like separate?
4 of them were a series about a little dinosaur named Lickety Split. And they were kind of ahead of their time if you look at today's world, because they were, I was in my early 20s, and all the themes were about not being prejudiced and loving everyone and accepting everyone based on just who they are and not judging and knowing who your friends are and being happy with yourself, and these real kind of adult themes, universal themes of love and positivity. And then I did 4 of those, and then I did maybe I did 5, and then I did another one called Crazy Creatures, about all the crazy creatures that live in your house, in your closet, in your basement. And then I kind of did the same thing years later, after I was already kind of entrenched in my career. I decided to get back into my kids' books, and I went to New York, and once again I
barged in.
I had my agent kind of knock on all these doors, and at least, but I just showed up with my artwork and said, "Hey," and sure enough, Penguin offered me a 3-book deal. So, yeah. So I have a few more books, a series called "The Kid with Too Many Pets," "The Kid with Too Many Nightmares." So it's a story about this little boy that collects things.
Man, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome because I like I said, I've written like children's poetry, and I've tried to see and everybody I've talked to who's got a book or has written a book or is like, dude, kids' books are really hard to break into. It's a really, really difficult industry. You should really not do that because you're not gonna succeed. It's basically what I've been told. Because it's like I like Shel Silverstein and Dr. Seuss, But
yeah. Now I'll tell you what. When I started working at the old publisher, the first guy I told you about. When I started the books, he had me go into his building every day, and I would draw. And so I was around all the other people in his company. And at the end of every week, there would be a pile about, 2.5 feet high of manila envelopes of people all over the country who had sent children's books and drawings. They did exactly what I did, but they mailed them, and every week. So it's not that it's impossible and you shouldn't quit, but everyone thinks children's books, it's a kid's book. The chicken walked in the room and said cluck, 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 and everyone has one in them. Everyone probably has lots of them in them, but it's just a question of timing and getting the right thing in front of the right person. And back then I was a little bit ahead of the whole dinosaur curve too. I just picked dinosaurs because I loved them. And then I'd say about 5 years later, 6 years later is when Jurassic Park came out, and everything was dinosaurs.
Yes. Yeah, man. Yeah. I was going to say they based those movies on your books.
Probably.
Jurassic Park.
But don't give up. Always don't ever let anyone tell you can't do something, man. That's the shame on them.
Yeah. I think it was just more like they knew that I had other options and other things and other ways to, have a creative outlet. And they were like, you should focus on other stuff but I'll still submit, I still send in to some publishers and here and there. And I take pride in the rejection letters. That's something you don't, it means that at least I gave it a shot with those people. I don't think I have the balls to drive to their businesses and run inside and go, I'm the guy that just emailed. It's like, because now everything is so quick. They're like,
try baking some like cookies and then barge in and see if
I've found that's a very old school mentality, the cookie thing. Like we used to bake cookies for our mailman or whatever. You can't just hand strangers baked goods now. Nobody wants to take them. They're like, I don't know you. This could be poison. This could be weed. This could be acid. This could be. It's like very sketchy.
Yeah.
So Puppy Dog Pals, where did it? I mean, the books, they don't relate. It's not like you had a story about dogs or whatever. So this is a separate entity in itself. And what was the seed that was like what made that story grow?
So at the time, let's see, this was back in the 90s. I had 2 puppies. This was in the kind of 93, 94. I had 2 little puppies in my house, and I was always running out to meetings. And so I had this empty little crawl space room in my basement. And so when I had to leave for my meetings, I'd put the puppies in there so they wouldn't tear up the house. And I'd put a newspaper down. And before I shut the door, I'd say, now don't forget to do your business. And then I'd shut the door and drive to work. And when I drive to my meetings, I'd think to myself, what if the puppies thought do your business was read the headline on the newspaper and then solve the headline? Like if it said, Titanic missing or plane goes down in the Bermuda Triangle, well, they want to please their master. So while I'm
gotta
away,
do our business.
they're going to do the business and go and find that thing before I get home at 5 o'clock. So the original show was called The Puppy Dog Papers. But like I said, I came up with it in the mid-90s. That shows you how long it takes for things to germinate sometimes, which is the most frustrating side of the entertainment industry. But I pulled it out years later, and I pitched it, and then I pitched it again, and I pitched it again, and then finally Disney responded to it. And then by that time, newspapers, you don't really see them anymore. So we ended up with kind of taking the newspaper element out, but they still go on mysteries based on overhearing things. And so now it's called Puppy Dog Pals.
Yeah, which makes sense. Like, they overhear their owners talking, they overhear people talking, maybe they see something on a TV or the internet or whatever. Right. And yeah, because the newspaper thing is I guess it's, but see, I don't know. I still feel like I'm old though, I guess. I'm just like, yeah, not newspapers. Everyone gets newspaper. People know about newspapers. And then you talk to somebody like, newspapers? What? And you're like, okay. So, yeah. It's the smart
and also
change.
There was a little bit of the whole angle of the newspaper was for them, like going to the bathroom. So I think Disney was a little, even though it was funny, Disney was a little bit, we might want to lose the toilet aspect of it, which I get. So
yeah, Disney's a unique company in the sense that they don't care about like ad dollars. Does that make sense? Like, they have their shows, they advertise on their channel for those shows, and then products that are tied into those shows or whatever, but they don't like I worked on a show that was a hidden camera show. It was very popular. It was like their '1 show for a little while, and they didn't pick it up for a second season. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Everyone's watching it. And someone's like, well, yeah, but they don't care. If it doesn't fit in the schedule and they don't. It's Disney. They're massive, and they can just cut whatever they want and bring in whatever they want, and just doesn't matter. But
that's what's even more peculiar about Puppy Dog Pals, because traditionally these types of kids cartoons in that age range usually have a 2-year lifespan, and the fact that mine made it to 5 years is as the execs at Disney told me, this just doesn't happen. So I've been very blessed with it. It's amazing. So
that's awesome. They've actually had to recast a couple of the voices, right? Yeah, because they started to change and get older. And I read one of the first things I Googled the show, and one of the first things that comes up is some lunatic who has a petition to recast the recasted voices because she doesn't like, this is an adult, by the way. Her kids haven't said anything. She doesn't like it. So she wants the voices recast. And I'm like, lady, you want to put people out of work because you don't like something. Get a grip.
Yeah, well, I had a number of people light up my old Twitter account about it. And I wrote them back, and I said, guys, be nice. I said, this is a very hard job that a little boy's doing.
Yeah, they're kids.
The best he can, and you're not being fair to him. You're not giving him a chance. And I think a lot of people, when I wrote that, like, realized and apologized, because it's not easy doing that work. And there's a lot, we do 60 episodes a season, and there's a song in every episode. And, so the new kid's doing a great job. It is a different sounding voice, but you can't stop nature. I mean, you can't stop puberty.
Right, exactly. You'll go through it someday, and when that happens,
then I'm going to bust into an office and tell somebody.
Guys, I've got pubic hair. That's not how this works, sir.
But I want to show it to somebody.
Guys, like, let me get everybody I work with into a boardroom. Come on in. It is a hard job, and 60 episodes is, I mean, the way TV works today. Back when TV was like ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS, it was a show if it had a season, it was 22 episodes. 22 episodes. Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, they have shows that 6 seasons, six episodes for a season. Yeah. 6 20-minute episodes. You're like, well, this is a short film. This isn't this isn't really a TV show. It's like more of a movie. But 60 episodes, these kids come in. What's the process of it? Like, because you don't write every episode. You've created the show and you sort of let it do its thing now, right?
Yeah, the first year I worked on every episode from top to bottom. You know, like so I sat in the writer's room and helped shape and wrote on every single episode just to get the ship steered in the right direction because it was my show. And then after that, once everything settled in, I was able to kind of step back. And now what I do is I do a final pass on every episode. I do like a punch up and a final go through just to look for ways to add better lines or funnier lines or whatever. And that's our process.
So you do a final pass. I mean, that's 60 episodes, man. That must be kind of time consuming, just having them come in all the time and just going through them.
Yeah, and it is, but it's worth it because it's, you know, it's just I realize it's such a rare thing in life to have this opportunity, and so I just want to make sure it's as good as it can be, and I want to put my heart and soul into it, and so that's why it's worth it. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
But I feel like, and I'm not pretending to be your best friend or know you that well. But I feel like you sort of do that with everything you do. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really deliver a half-assed anything. You know what I mean? There's never, when you're doing your stand-up, you're in it full on. You want to have the best show you can. Your specials are, you know, you worked at those. There's no fucking laying around and being, you know, just kind of like, because you could kind of sit on your name. People know who you are. You're famous. You know, you've been in TV films for a long time now, and you could just be like, yeah, I created the show. Now you guys go, and I'm going to collect a check over here. Are you not, I don't want to say control freak like it's a bad thing, but are you like, hey, this is a thing I made. I don't want it to suck. I'm going to have to be involved all the time.
Yeah, but not in an invasive way. I'm a very collaborative. I actually like working with people, and I like the back and forth. But I'm a control freak to the degree that I want to put what I can into it to hope that it's the best it can be. But I'm also pliable enough that I can, if someone pushes back or doesn't like something, and I can live with it, I go, okay, I can live with that. But if it's something I really want, I'll push some more. And, you know, it's just a game. And I've learned you've just got to be diplomatic, and you've got to be, you know, you got to be respectful of other people's voices and try to get there, you know. And I find if you approach it that way, you usually can, or at least close to it, you know.
Yeah, I had a boss say something because I was like, well, you don't have to take my idea. I know. Like I said something like, oh, I'm just I'm not in charge or whatever. And he was like, look, dude, yes, I make more money than you, but this is a best idea wins environment. I'm not out to like have all the ideas. I just want the show to be the best thing it can be. So if you have a better idea, I want to hear it, and we'll do it. Like and I've kind of used that saying, like best idea mentality. You know, it's just like, it's not about who the chain, a hierarchy of command. It's about making this thing we're trying to create the best it can be. And
well, that was a good boss, because unfortunately there's a lot of people in the entertainment industry who think the exact other way, and they will try to not only block your ideas, but undermine you and stab you in the back. There's a lot of those people, but you just got to learn how to walk through the landmines, you know?
Yeah. Have you experienced a lot of that? Just like the backstabbing, and I'm not looking for names or anything, but just, I think it'd be a really weird, dark, miserable human being to be like, I'm going to fuck over Harland Williams and him. And you know what I mean? Like, you'd have to be pretty angry person inside. I can't imagine that being a thing that most people would feel, but
unfortunately in the industry we're in, and maybe it happens in any industry, there's always some people that behave that way, you know, and you just learn to deal with them, and I always say just don't adopt anyone else's anger or anyone else's bad attitude. Like, I've had people be bad to me, but I won't replicate it or throw it back at them. I'll go, if I adopt what they're doing, then I become them. So I kind of I kind of feel like I walk down a road and every now and then someone's on the side and starts throwing rocks at me, but eventually I'll get out of the range and I'll carry on my own course. And so it's not fun sometimes because those rocks can hurt and they can slow you down, but I find if you just power on through and stay true to your own beliefs and your own voice, you'll be okay. So
yeah, eventually the rocks will stop being thrown, or at least you'll get to a place where they can't throw them that far.
Yeah, and I think the worst part is when the people throwing them are people that you had trusted, or there were people who might have been friends or might have pretended to be a friend and or an ally, and you find out otherwise. But I don't think there's anyone in the entertainment business that hasn't had some rocks thrown at them. So
yeah, it is kind of part of it, I guess, which is unfortunate, but also is the kind of thing that you like. If you can make it to the other side of the rock throwing, it's sort of like a badge of honor. Like, yeah, all these people tried to stop this thing I was doing, but here we are. It's 5 seasons,
right.
You know. It's
That's
like,
right.
and it's not like a haha, I told you so, big middle finger, but it's like if Disney's saying 5 seasons is rare and it's a kid's show, I mean, stuff doesn't last more than 2-3 seasons, like in all of television. You know what I mean? Even a really good show has a plan to get out after 3 seasons because it's not likely to get a 4th, you know?
No, it's really cool. And I think what's really cool too is now with the emergence of Disney Plus, even though the seasons are going to stop after 5 next year, the show will still have a life on that platform. So
so they'll show it in like a syndication sort of. I mean, on Disney, but
they'll show it on their streaming platform. You know, so it'll live on a bit longer, if not in perpetuity, perhaps on Disney Plus. So that's kind of cool.
That is cool. What does that, not to get into finances, but like that pays, you know what I mean? Like if they keep running it, you keep getting paid, right? I mean, that's part of the deal. Yeah. I just didn't know.
As long as they're using the product and it's out there, then you just like anything else, like a song that plays on the radio forever or a movie or, you know, everything.
Same deal. Yeah.
You get royalties and residuals and things like that. So
and because you do the voice of the dog's owner, Bob, right?
Bob, yeah, that's right.
And so you're in every episode because you're it's like you're leaving for work again. It's the same setup. The cast is pretty impressive. One name popped out at me that I was like reading, and I was like, "Oh, Tom Kenny, that makes sense. Patrick Warburton, that makes sense." These are, you know, Jack McBrayer, Sherry O'Terry, like voices that are, you know, as talented as these people are as actors, voices that could easily be cartoons. You know what I mean? It's like a no-brainer for those guys. And Alana Eubank, which is somebody I actually worked with in a movie years ago, but she's really great. But I don't know if you know who I'm going to ask about. Huey Lewis?
Yeah.
What? How did that come about? Did he audition?
No, I think that came about from the showrunner at the time for the first 4 seasons. He was a fan of Huey, and so Huey did audition, and you know, because we auditioned a lot of really high-profile people, and Huey's role is for like this junkyard dog named not Bosworth. Oh God, I'm blanking on the name. Anyways, I'll think of it. There's so many puppies, believe me.
Dude, yeah.
But anyway, so he auditioned for this junkyard dog, and he has that kind of gravelly voice, and so he fit really well. And then one of the things when he started, they're like, okay, but no songs, and we were like, okay. And then sure enough, we got him to do a song, so that was great. Yeah.
Why do you think just because he didn't want to be seen as the guy that was brought in just because he could sing, or what was his no song? I mean,
I don't know. I really don't have any idea. I don't know, but I think maybe, you know, doing a song is a lot more work than just doing a few lines in your own voice. So it could have been just a work thing, but I think possibly once he saw how charming his character was and how cool Bulworth is his name. I apologize, but I'm hoping that once he saw how great his character was, that maybe he was like, you know what, I'll sing. So that was a real treat for us.
Dude, have you ever seen Huey Lewis and the News in concert?
No.
I saw him once at the Ventura County Fair, and dude, I love Huey Lewis, man. That dude, he's like a San Francisco guy. He like used to play with the Grateful Dead every once in a while. He's a very hip, old school, used to work on a dairy farm as a truck driver. Like, that dude's got history, man. And I really, like, anytime I see Huey Lewis in anything, I'm like, I will definitely check that out, even if it's something like he was in Duets or whatever. I saw a chunk of that just because he's in it. You know, it's like, whatever.
Wow.
So how involved were you with the casting? Was it kind of like you had like a hand in the final say of who gets in, or?
Yeah, well, initially, believe it or not, I had a bunch of my friends come in because Rolly and Bingo, the two lead characters, the two puppies, we initially cast them as adult voices.
Oh.
And believe it or not, I brought in my buddy Tom Green, and he got the role of Rolly. They actually selected Tom as Rolly, and he did a great job. But then as we started to do the pilot and whatnot, it became apparent that, because it's such aimed at young kids, the exec said, we love those guys we cast, but I think we should go with kids. And I couldn't argue with them, and the kids do a great job. So.
Yeah, and if you're a kid watching it, to hear someone who sort of sounds like you, like, I understand the comedy of hearing like Tom Green's voice in a cartoon puppy. I mean, there's definitely comedy there, but I guess if you're a kid, the adult voice doesn't, like, you don't register Tom Green and my bum is on the railing. You just you hear an adult and you're like, oh, that dog's an adult. Yeah, I can. And look, Disney, they understand children's programming, I guess, a little bit. I mean, they might know some things. They might know some things.
And then the other person I really fought to get in there was Sherry O'Terry, just because Sherry to me is just one of the funniest, like, people, period, that I've ever met. Like, there's a lot of people that can be funny and do comedy, but Sherry has a built-in comedy machine. Like, she is just, it's organic to her. I've met a few people, not to say that I haven't met a lot of funny people, but I think Gary Shandling was a guy I met who just, there was like some kind of machine in him that oozed comedy, and Sherry O'Terry to me is the same. And so I just went right to the top guys and said, put her in, please, and they did. So she's great. In there. Yeah, I love her, and and I had a few other buddies. Bill Burr did a voice, and Tom Green ended up doing a guest voice, and a few other people. So it's been fun.
That's great, man. I mean, and so many of these types of people that hey, I got a show, you want to do a voice. It can't be like, who's going to say no? It doesn't. It's It would be great to Of course, they would want to do that. What was I going to say? Oh. When you, I don't know why this is, I have it written down because like I said, I looked up the show a little bit. Your first TV credit on IMDb, do you know what that is?
Let me guess. I'm going to say These Friends of Mine with Ellen DeGeneres.
It was Ellen's show, but it was called Ellen. And you were a ticket taker at a movie theater or something?
That's right. Yeah.
I did not know that. That was really funny just to see, because like her career has gone all the way to the top of the mountain and is now like sledding down quickly. You know what I mean?
It is?
Yeah, the show, all the stories about it, the abuse that was going on her show, and just she is now not, she's been sort of outed as not the nice person that she appears to be on TV, which the funny thing is like, you sort of know that just from being in the industry a little bit, that some people are different on camera than they are off camera. That's just how it's going to be. And that doesn't work with people in the Midwest. Their brain, they don't like that. They like Ellen. When I see her at the mall, she better be dancing and handing out prizes. And when it turns out that Ellen's had a bad day and she's like a real person and she's like, get the fuck away from me, everyone's like, oh, what a, they go crazy. It's just it's humanity. But
yeah, that was an interesting thing. That was my very first thing. I went in and auditioned for that, and I was the guest star, and the other guest star on that episode was Molly Shannon from Saturday Night Live, and
superstar.
Yeah, years later, here I am, her leading man making out with her in the movie Superstar, and it's just so cool the way that works,
Dude, you have been in some great movies. Like, that's not lost on you, right? Half Baked is a cult classic. Like that movie is like a extension of Cheech and Chong. That movie's never going to go away. People who are just finding weed today are going to see that movie tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's like there's just like forever and a day is that movie. There's like RocketMan is always going to be around. Like these are great movies, man. These are really, in the world of comedy, they're great movies. I did want to ask you about something I saw that I have never seen before or even heard of on your IMDb page, but it looks like you had a huge hand in it, meaning you wrote it, directed it, starred in it. Fudgy McFudgeface?
Oh, Fudgy Wudgy Fudge Face.
Fudgy Wudgeface Fudge Face. What is that? And did you have to grow your teeth out for it?
So Fudgy Wudgy Fudge Face was a passion project, and I think by this time I've done about 50 movies or something like that, and at the time I had probably done about 40 movies, and I tried to sell a few movies and write a few movies, and I realized I was always in other people's movies, and I realized by being in movies that everybody, producers change scenes and lines, and the director doesn't have all the control I thought he did. And so I realized that motion pictures are a lot of different voices and a lot of different creative minds coming together. And rarely is it really pure. I think Scorsese and Woody Allen probably come close to doing the purest form of their own movies, because they've been granted the ability to cast them and shoot them and edit them. And so it's a very rare thing. And I realized I'm probably going to live and die in the movie industry without ever doing a pure piece of movie that was mine. So I wanted to write, direct, shoot, produce, hair and makeup, transportation, craft service, edit, music, everything. So I did this movie called Fudgy Wudgy Fudge Face that took me 6 years.
No kidding.
But I did absolutely everything in it except for the acting that the people I put in it did. And I just thought before I die, I want to have one, I call it a piece of purity. So not to say it's the best movie ever made, but at least it's completely pure from my mind to the camera and edited with my hands. And then I was able to go, okay, now
did you legitimately work the camera?
Yeah, for a lot of it.
So you did everything.
I was in, so I had a buddy do it. But that whole movie, the biggest crew I ever had was 2 people. Like I would just grab whoever was available on a weekend or a weekday and go out to the desert and shoot. And I shot in Death Valley. I shot at the Salton Sea. I rented locations. I bought a truck to use as the main vehicle. I had my girlfriend strapped to the front of the hood and had her filming in the window while I was driving. I mean, it was real guerrilla filmmaking, but it came out, and a lot of my good friends were in it, like Bobby Lee and Tom Papa.
There's a ton of people in that movie, yeah.
Andy Dick and Michael Rosenbaum. And so all these great friends of mine, they didn't even ask to see the script. They just showed up, and I love them for it. And so I call it the dumbest movie ever made. It's about a hillbilly who's driving through the desert, and an alien spaceship crashes, and the first human this intelligent alien ever meets is this idiot hillbilly named Elmore P. Fudge. And my nickname is Fudgy Wudgy Fudge Face. And the alien
I like the nickname is longer than the real name. The nickname is longer than the real name.
And so basically, the story is that this alien left his planet because, like on Footloose, they're not allowed to dance. So he comes to Earth. All he wants to do is bust a power jam at a disco, and then he's home. And so he meets Elmore P. Fudge. Elmore P. Fudge drives him to a disco, but meanwhile, the government tracked the alien coming in, and so they've got a bounty hunter looking for the alien to kill him. And so then it becomes a chase movie, and it's silly as hell. But if you like weird, silly movies, you can actually order it still on DVD on my website at harlandwilliams.com.
Wow, it's not on Amazon or anything?
It was for a while, but then Amazon changed the rules where you had to have subtitles for everything, and I didn't have that. So I'm hoping to digitize it myself and start selling it on my website eventually. But
yeah, I bet you could sell that at shows too. Just like
I did for DVDs a while.
Of this rare movie that no one can find or see. That's wild, dude. But I respect that. I understand what you're saying with the, you can be in other people's movies, and you can, like, you didn't create Half Baked. You were cast in it. Yeah. You acted in the movie, and like there's a difference of like, this is my movie and that's a movie I'm in. So I can appreciate that, and your the drive to do everything yourself. I mean, was that? I mean, you'd seen it on set and everything, but was there a learning curve? Was that kind of like, oh man, I'm going to have a lot more respect for hair and makeup after this, or I'm going to have a lot more respect for a DP or a camera guy, or can't believe this guy has to do all this work and this job sucks and I never want to do it again?
I guess it did, but to be honest, all of it was so much fun for me, and I had to get very inventive. Like I had to figure out how to swing things on fishing lines, and like I said, strap people to the front of my truck, and just part of it was just kind of learning and figuring out how to do the shots I wanted and the makeup I needed. And there was never a moment of where I was like, I didn't like it. It was actually amazing, but it was 6 years it took me.
And that's because you were doing it, like you said, guerrilla style. There wasn't a production company. It took you that long because you were doing it in your spare time when you could find people to work with,
That's right.
Given a budget, given, a line producer and a crew, I'm sure you could have shot that movie in a month,
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I just, there is something very cool about just having it be yours. You know what I mean? And that's, I can dig that. I like that.
And that wasn't an ego thing. It was just, it was really about purity, because I think it's because I'm an artist, and I always look at things through the prism of art. Like you've heard this saying before, like if Van Gogh or Dali were doing a painting, somebody else would pick up the brush and do 8 strokes and then hand it back to Dali. He does the whole painting himself. Picasso did every brush stroke in his paintings. And I look at film like that too, and I know it's not possible these days. Well, it is if they let it be possible, but so I wanted to have that one piece of work that I could say, this was my brush strokes, and it's
all of them,
and it's my vision, and I'm willing to take the accolades, and I'm willing to take the insults, but I don't care because it's done, and it's just beautiful. So
yeah, that's good, man. That's great. Congratulations, because that's not, as you learned, not an easy thing to do.
No, it wasn't.
Shoot a movie on your own.
No.
What do you have a favorite movie that you've done that you're like, this is, or are you kind of like don't want to play favorites and they're all your babies?
Yeah, they're all my big, because each movies are so magical. You said it earlier, like they live with people, they stay with people more so than I find TV shows or anything else. Like movies movies, I think, get into people's hearts and stay with them their whole lives, whereas TV shows are there for a while, but then kind of. So
Yeah.
I think maybe one of my top favorites, it's just because I got to be the star of it, and I got to, the Disney let me rewrite it twice. And so RocketMan was really, even though it's maybe not one of my most famous movies, it was a real treat because it was made during a time when doing a movie and being the lead in a movie was kind of a big deal. And so for a brief while, I got to kind of be a big movie star for 3-4 months, you know, and it was absolutely magical, you know, and it wasn't low budget. It was, I think it was $35 million, and it wasn't how they make movies nowadays where they shoot them in 28 days. I mean, you know, I do movies now and we shoot 8 pages a day. Back at RocketMan, sometimes we do 1 page a day. And it was,
but that was shot on film, right?
Shot on film, and the sets were built, and you know, it was a full-on movie experience. And not to sound like an ass, but it's something you dream of when, you know, they flew me around on private jets and rented me a big kind of house in Houston, and you know, it was like the star treatment, and it was magical on top of the movie itself, which I just love, and they let me rewrite it and make it mine, and I really love it. So that was, the other movies were great, but this one probably had the most, you know, hoopla around it. And
do you think like your relationship with Disney from that, did that have anything to do with them being really cool with Puppy Dog Pals and being like, yeah, why don't we do that? Or this is totally different people at different times, different industries, essentially?
You know, I can't tell, John, to be honest, but I look back at my relationship with Disney, and it stretches. You know, I did RocketMan. I did a movie for them that I starred in called Mr. Headmistress. I co-starred in the Gina Davis sitcom with Gina Davis. I did Sorority Boys, the movie with Disney. I've done voices for other cartoons. So I've just had a long working relationship with Disney. So I don't think they looked at anything and went, oh yeah, this guy. I think Puppy Dog Pals just really sold on the merits of they saw a good idea. And believe it or not, this struck me as really interesting. When I started the show, one of the executives took me to the side and said, Harland, did you know that Disney's never done a TV show about puppies? And I went, oh my God, that's true. Like, they did movies, Lady and the Tramp and 101 Dalmatians, but they'd never done an animated series. And I just went, wow, it was almost impossible to think of. So once she said that, I went, Disney puppies. And in my head, it's funny because I said to my showrunner, I said, I think we're going to go 5 years. I remember saying that to him. And we did. Yeah. So.
And they've told you that this is going to be the last season?
Yeah, I asked them about 2 months ago, and they said, yeah, this is it. So, but that doesn't mean, you know, sometimes with these things, there's spin-offs, or there's you know, a movie, or maybe they bring it back in 5 years. You know, sometimes
Puppy Dog Pals Jr., or the puppies of the parents who became, you know, the puppies that became parents. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so you just never know. But even if there's not another drawing done, I've been blessed with it, and I hope, you know, this thing plays in like, I think, over 130 countries around the world in multiple languages. And you know, I went to Saudi Arabia a couple of years ago, and I turned on the TV in the hotel, and there it was, and I get on airplanes, and there it is, and it's just fantastic. So.
That's got to feel good, dude. You made something that is like people all over the world can watch. And I mean, I know that sounds silly with the internet and, you know, but like Saudi Arabia, they can't just jump on the internet and look at what I'm looking at. They have laws and rules and restrictions. So Puppy Dog Pals made it in there. You know what I mean? It's like, that's fascinating. That's really, got to feel good, man.
Really weird. Yeah. So somebody somewhere, I think if you look around on the internet, you can find it, but someone did a mashup of the intro song for Puppy Dog Pals in all the different languages.
Oh, wow.
And it's pretty fascinating to watch, because
That's great.
In the intro song, I have one line. I actually go in the middle of the song, I go, "See you later, pups." And to hear all the different, like the Italian, the German, the Danish, it cracked me up when I was watching it. But
that's really funny, and not your voice. It's just somebody else doing the dialogue.
Country, yeah, so it was really made me laugh to see it.
But that's also kind of interesting, is that it got big enough that it was able to employ and give jobs to people who are outside of not just the country, like way outside your circle, way outside the country. It's different parts of the world who are like, oh, I voice so-and-so on Puppy Dog Pals because it has to be in French now or whatever. You know, it's like, that's giving people jobs, man. That's people working in a studio. That's voiceover guys coming in. That's people getting cast. That's a casting director working. That's like generating income for people, man. That's awesome.
It's pretty fascinating when you break it down. Then you think of people making the toys and all that, and you know.
That's what. The merch, dude. The merchandise. How's that? I mean, that must have started immediately.
Yeah, it started about I'd say about six months after, and I got to tell you, that first time I went into a mall, I was doing a show out in I think Brea, California or somewhere. And I hadn't been made aware that the toys had even come out yet. And so I went to a mall while I was out there during the day before my show. And I just happened to see a Disney store. And I walked in, and there was Rolly and Bingo and Hissy sitting there on a shelf. It just kind of blew my mind. And I actually kind of stood in a corner, and I don't want to sound stalkerish, but I just watched people like pick them up and buy them. And it was just like, it was like a dream come true. I got to say, it was amazing. So,
dude, that is cool, man, because, well, one, I don't know how it works now, but I know that with the original Star Wars movie, the toys made almost more than the movie.
Oh yeah.
So it's a lucrative, like, especially Disney, who specifically markets TV to children, and all the products on there are for children. Those things have got to be selling like hotcakes, man. I mean, that's got to be awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fun when you go into, like, they're literally in JCPenney, Walmart, Target, like all these stores, and I go into different stores, and they not only do they have them, but they've got different items. Like one store will have plush toys, another store will have rubber galoshes, another store will have sippy cups, another store will have a sleeping bag, and it's just really cool to know that your product is involved in these kids' lives, and it's something that they find endearing, and it means something to them, you know?
I mean, think about that. Like, I had a Star Wars sleeping bag from age 5 to age, I had it till I was like 35, just because it was so old and so unique and so Empire Strikes Back. And so, wow, look at this sleeping bag. That's easily going to, like, there's a kid buying a Puppy Dog Pal sleeping bag right now who, when he's 30, he's going to go, this is, talking to his kids, you don't even know fucking cartoons in my day were 2 dogs and Harland Williams. You know what I mean? It's going to be, I don't know. It's just the circle of television, basically. But I love it.
Well, what's really fascinating to me too is, my show's on Disney Junior. So basically, it's designed for like 2-year-olds to 5-year-olds. And so what's happening is, I kind of didn't think of this when we started it, but my show is the first television that thousands of human beings are watching. It's the very first television period they've ever seen, and so they're going to grow up. Well, when you're a kid, like Scooby-Doo is ingrained in me because that's what I watched as a little boy, and so I'll be dead and gone, but all these kids will somehow carry a memory of that with them because it'll be somewhere in their subconscious, the very first show they watch. So when you think of it.
Yeah, I think about Super Friends. That was one of my favorite cartoons when I was a kid, like 7 a.m. Saturday morning, Super Friends. I think about every time someone says cartoons, that pops into my head. I'm like, oh man, that was so fun getting up to watch that. And that was like the first thing I can really remember watching, It's like, okay. And I'm sure I'd watched Sesame Street or whatever, but that really had an impact on me. I don't know why. Probably because I wanted to.
By the way, John, if you ever have kids and you want to punish them, but you don't want to spank them, Just throw them in that Star Wars sleeping bag for 10 minutes and zip it up, and they will never misbehave. I mean, the campfire farts that must be in the fabric of that thing. It must smell like, it probably smells like C-3PO's adult diaper, okay? Just, good Lord.
Yeah, the farts are now ingrained in the fabric. It's part of the sleeping bag. It's part of the experience.
The sleeping bag's got so many old farts it rolls up by itself.
Oh, man. Well, hey, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Thank you so much for talking to us. This was awesome, man. And I do want to bring Indy in. If he's got any questions about RocketMan, it's his favorite movie.
Oh, good. Okay. Please.
He's a super fan.
Yeah, hey, this was super cool to listen to. Huge fan. It's funny you mentioned that, like, it was one of the, like, your TV show being, you know, one of the first things that kids nowadays are start seeing. I was 4 years old when RocketMan came out. So, like, literally, it's...
You were 4?
Yeah, you did that.
Fuck
You've
off.
been doing that for decades. So it's like... It's super cool.
Right.
But my first question, before you said you rewrote the script, my question was going to be, how is working with the chimp, like Ulysses? But I'm actually curious, what did you rewrite in the story compared to what it was originally?
So I basically rewrote everything. So the original writers created the framework and the scenes, and then I went through the whole script over and over, and I looked at every scene and said to myself, how do I plus this scene? How do I make this scene bigger and funnier? How do I make it Harland, you know? And to give you an example of that, there's many examples, but one that you'll probably get, there's a scene where I get locked in a chamber, an isolation chamber. And they want to see how I'm going to stand up in space because of the isolation. So I have to be locked in this chamber for like 48 hours by myself with nothing else. So the scene they wrote, they closed the door and there's a little glass window. And the scene was, we see Fred Randall's face and he says, "Mommy." And I said, guys, this guy's got such an imagination. This guy is such a space junkie. He loves outer space. If you put him in a space alone, he would start yodeling, he'd start singing, he would do a puppet show, and so they let me write all that stuff. So that what went from one word became a whole probably 5-minute comedic, you know, romp with all these different things that I added. And so I did that with just about every scene in the movie where I plussed it, I upped it, the scene where I'm going around on the thing, same thing. I was just spinning around, and the big joke was, "Mommy." I say, "Mommy," and I said, "No, this guy, the pin would come loose, the seat would fly off." Originally, I had it where he slid out the building, down the street, and through a drive-through and grabbed someone's bag of food. But that was too much, so they settled with me sliding through NASA and smashing through walls. And then I said, let me hit the guy that I keep hurting, and his wheelchair flew up. And so I did that with every scene. On Mars, I said, you know, my guy would be trapped under the thing and call me Mommy, and I could go on and on. I mean, every single scene, I rewrote it.
That's amazing. That's
so
well, that's good. That's intelligence on their part too. They had you in the movie. Why not let you make the movie how you would? You know what I mean? Like let's beef it up a little bit.
I gotta say that John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, I'll sing it to myself when I'm alone sometimes. Like just referencing that scene, it's so funny.
That song, I had forgot. I wasn't really that familiar with that song. I had heard it, but to be honest, the director, Stuart Gillard, that was his idea. He goes, "Why don't we have you sing?" And I said, "I don't really know it. Tell me about it." He goes, "It's one of those songs when you sing it, it gets louder and
louder and louder and louder."
And I said, "Oh,"
and then it quiets down and it comes back up.
So I said, guide me through it, but we threw that into the chamber with all the other stuff, and it really worked good. You know,
Yeah.
That's what my brother does all the time. He sings that song and he gets much louder with it, you know, and it's ridiculous.
But that was my whole idea too. That originally there was no other guy beside me. I said, let's have the other guy in through the wall, and he's hearing it all, and let's have him go insane. And so I just added everything to make it as funny as it could possibly be. So
that's gold. Dude, that's awesome.
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
And anything else you got coming up? You want to plug, or you got any dates? This will be out, I mean, a couple weeks, but.
Oh, well, when, geez, I have a date coming up in Wisconsin, but you know, I'd probably rather forget about dates. I have a new digital platform where if you want to see some of my weird kind of filmmaking and weird stuff, I have a Patreon account. It's called, if you go to Patreon, it's an account where you can pay a small monthly fee to see exclusive content. So I put a podcast up on there, and I have a series called Two Guys in Their Underpants, which is something I shoot myself. They're these two little dolls that wear underpants, and I film them all over the world. Wherever I go, I have them. I have an episode where they're having sexual intercourse with the St. Louis Arch. I have them. I have them where they farted so hard they went over Niagara Falls. I actually threw them over Niagara Falls. I have them at Burning Man riding around on a giant inflatable ice cream sandwich. I took them to Saudi Arabia. I mean, they've been everywhere. So, yeah. Hang on. I think I have them here. Let me see if I can grab them.
Oh, my God.
I mean, you threw them over Niagara Falls. How did you get them back? Jesus Christ.
I have like duplicates. Here they are.
Stunt doubles. Yeah. One has a mustache.
Because they're both the same, so I had to draw a mustache on with a Sharpie so you could tell them apart. Now, right now they're nude, but here's their underpants.
Boxers. Good.
And so these guys, I take them all over the world and I film them. And so if you want to see their exploits, I just filmed one where they have a seance and bring Elvis back. So it's called patreon.com/Harland Williams. And
we'll put up a link too when we post
thank
this.
You. Yeah, you can join for a small fee and you get all this exclusive content. So that's
dude, that is hilarious.
Proud of, and it's funny and weird, and so there you go. I'll plug that.
That's awesome. Yeah, we will. Just out of curiosity, when you say Wisconsin, were you talking Madison?
Gosh, I'm not sure. I think
it's okay. We'll put up a link to your website too. They can get your dates. Yeah. I just have a lot of friends in Wisconsin, so
thank you. Yeah, Harland.
They're in the area.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, Indy, you have any other questions?
No, that was incredible. That was
my
awesome.
God, I'm gonna have to join the Patreon to see the new dolls underpants dolls being chucked off Niagara Falls. Harland, thank you so much, man. This was awesome. Really appreciate it. And thanks for everything else you've done for me. I appreciate that too.
Oh yeah. Well, can I just tell them before we go that Jon comes out and we work together and we do shows together, and Jon does a great job. And I've only had 2 shows in a year and a half since COVID. So I'm eager to get back out there with you, Jon, and we're going to find some gigs. And Jon's hilarious.
Do you remember?
Go see him.
Do you remember how we met? Do you remember how we met at that?
We met at, there's this comedian named Sebastian.
Sebastian Maniscalco.
Yeah, and he had a sitcom. And they were auditioning for it, and I met Jon in the waiting room, and I said to Jon, I said to you, you told me you did stand up, and I said, well, here's my email. I'll see if I can find some shows for us to do together, and we've kind of been working together ever since on shows. So
I remember I came out, and you were sitting in like an empty office. And you were just kind of leaned back in a chair and you were reading the lines. You were going over your lines. And I looked and I go, oh, my God, you've been here 5 minutes. You already have a job? And you didn't even break. You just immediately picked up the phone. You're like, yeah, what do you need? Come on in. Hello? And like you went into this whole like, I'm working here, everybody. And just like an empty office with like nothing else but a chair, a desk, and a phone. That was fucking funny, man. All right. Yeah, dude, I can't wait to work with you again. And I'm glad you're back out there doing shows. The world needs that.
Yeah.
And Puppy Dog Pals, congratulations on 5 seasons, man. That's impressive. So I got nieces and nephews that watch it. They'll love this episode. Maybe I shouldn't have swore so much, but
I marked it.
But yeah.
I marked it all. Don't worry.
Oh, good. We can beep it all
They're
out.
going to be all cut, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Harland, man. Take it easy. Have a good one. Enjoy Greenland.
All right, guys, be safe, and we'll see you on the dark side of the moon, Pink Floyd.
Hey, there you go. All right. Later, man.
We'll see ya.
Thank you.